Okay, let's look at citrus, and let's say back in the day, that would be back in high school, in English class, you often got a charge from the instructor. Compare and contrast this and that. So let's compare and contrast the flowering and fruiting habit of citrus versus deciduous fruit trees, apples, pears, peaches, plums, and the like. Let's do citrus. Let me just say, citrus is a little pokey in getting out of the chute, getting down the road, and getting there being the object of our desires, fruit. Takes easily 3, 4, 5 years to have appreciable fruit, and more probably 4 or 5 years to have appreciable fruit on a citrus tree. With some dwarfing rootstocks, with apples particularly, you can have a full production load at 3 to 5 years. So they're different in that regard. So another thing about citrus is they have varying habits of growth. And here we have a couple different examples. This is a clementine or Algerian mandarin planted about 5, 6 months ago. It's off to a fairly good start. And let me just say that citrus, again, is pokey. It often just sits there for a year or two. Your job, should you accept it, is to spur the tree into early vegetative growth. And this is done with fertilizer, compost, and organic fertilizers. And this is done in what's called splits. You don't just put nutrients on once a year as you do with deciduous trees early in the season. Every 6 to 8 weeks throughout the growing season, from spring to late summer, early fall, you're putting on a round of fertilizer. And if the tree isn't growing, I would go from solid fertilizer, compost, and organic certified fertilizer to a liquid form. It could be fish emulsion, a blend of fish and kelp in a liquid form. One of my favorite fertilizers in a granular form is the product Sustain, and it also comes in a format of little pellets that you can mix in with water and create a liquid fertilizer. So be on top of your game, of course, always in all respects, but really be on top of getting that young citrus tree off to a good start. So we have the Algerian or clementine mandarin, really a highly productive mid-season mandarin. All kind of sweet, good juice quotient, relatively easy to peel, not the easiest, say like an Owari Satsuma mandarin with a skin, you can just about sneeze the skin off. To use poor English, ain't nothing not to like about the clementine or the Algerian here. So here we have a young one, and then here we have another variety. This is the variety Gold Nugget. It's kind of all the rage these days in the commercial world, and rightfully so. Produces a mandarin that is mid-sized and has got a really high both sugar and juice quotient. Its habit is, as you see, pretty columnar and erect, and that's the way it will be throughout its life. And a good thing about that is that it can be spaced closer together than many other varieties here. All right, let's pivot, as it were, and look at a tree that's 2+ years old. Here we have a 2-year-old citrus tree. It is the variety Tango, and it's one of the new ones along with Gold Nugget, and they rightfully win a lot of taste tests. So you can see a little more shrub establishment, and the nature of the Tango is it's a little bit upright and a little bit mounded, but you can see we treated this tree with great care. It has reciprocated well, and so we're off and running. Even in year 2, we're seeing flowers here. Flowers that get pollinated by winged insects, mostly bees, native and non-native, and will set a crop. And you have to be careful with trees, deciduous or evergreen, to not let them set a crop too young, because fruit is a huge carbohydrate sink. My joke being, fruit is the corporate robber baron of carbohydrates in trees. So letting a tree set up fruit or appreciable fruit too early in its life stunts further growth. And we want to establish this as a nice 5-6 foot by 5-6 foot shrub that will give us a copious amount of fruit annually, going forward 50, 75, 100 years, who knows. But it seems warranted that we could let a small amount of fruit remain on this tree. Okay.
Why would you want to do that?
Because it's yummers. I'm impatient, I'm greedy. Here we have a 3-year-old going into his 4th year, Moro blood orange. Blood oranges are among my favorite citrus. They have a reasonable modicum of sweetness, of course, a lot of juice, yeah, make a great blood-colored juice, really wild. But they also have this intriguing hint of strawberries, raspberries that's really a cut above blood oranges, in this case, Moro. I might add that this is a citrus tree on a fully dwarfing rootstock. The Moro orange would be 20, 30 feet tall on a full-size rootstock, half that, maybe 10, 15 feet on a semi-dwarfing rootstock. On a fully dwarfing rootstock like this, maybe 6 feet like that. So. But let's look at this nicely established 3-year-old shrub for its pattern of bloom and fruit. Let me make an overarching statement. Citrus almost exclusively just bears at the tip of the branch on current season's growth. And so we can pull this down and out a little bit. And if you look down the stem, you see green, green, green. And then you see this older, more woody material at the base. That's last year's growth. This is this year's growth. The beginning of May, this probably commenced in Feb, early March, like that. And if we track up to the tip, you can see still actively growing, yes. And it's not improbable, because we're just at the outset of bloom season, that this may grow another 6, 8 inches and have some blossoms out here. But there is some remnant flowers here and a lot of nubbin fruit. And again, it's on current season's growth, young and small. Here's the deal with citrus, or a portion of the deal, which is that they bear apically at the tip of current season's growth, sure. They put out a profusion of flowers. They're pollinated by bees. The scent is amazing when they're in bloom. And they set clusters of fruit. Unlike deciduous trees, they self-thin. So all but one will drop off in this little area here. And organic deciduous fruit tree growers guesstimate that maybe as much as 70 to 80% of their yearly labor costs is exhausted by a 3 or 4 week period in the spring when the trees must be manually thinned. Citrus does it for you. Pruning, again, compare and contrast. Deciduous trees are pruned annually. Actually, it could be a couple times a year. A big winter pruning and a lighter summer pruning to create the shape you want and control size a bit. Rootstock is primarily imparted by, rootstock primarily imparts size of the tree. You don't really prune citrus. Let me emphasize, don't prune citrus, semicolon, much, if at all. And the reason for that is when you prune back a branch, you're pruning off this year's crop. The other thing is that when you head back a branch, it causes the tree to branch and it becomes kind of a cluttered mess. Time to time, you have rogue branches, wayward branches, and just branches that are, well, let's call it cray-cray, boom, boom, boom. They're just unusually vigorous, going off at an odd angle like that. And so you may need to do some pruning. The term that's used in the world of citrus is you prune to shape. And you thin, not head back those branches. So you take them out at their point of origin. I can recall maybe on one hand the number of times over 30, 40 years I've actually done some pruning on citrus, so I don't recommend it. Okay, here we have an apple tree, not just any apple, but the variety Chehalis, which is better than the best Golden Delicious you ever ate. And the only way you're going to get a good Golden Delicious is to grow it yourself, and it's a hand-to-mouth kind of thing, subsistence. You eat it fresh off the tree, not the ones you get in stores. So Chehalis, it's just a rogue seedling from a Golden Delicious orchard up in Chehalis, Washington. It's distinctly earlier than Golden Delicious, as well as being distinctly more high-flavored. I want to say bakes the best pie you're ever going to bake. And so Chehalis. And let's look at this section of the tree for the pattern of flowering and fruiting on deciduous trees, this again being an apple. So you have this branch here going on and up and up. Deciduous trees only bear on 2-year-old and older wood. So let's look at some of the laterals here. This is a long but strong lateral off this main stem here. And then off of that you have fruit buds, as evidenced here by a cluster of flowers. Here we have a fruit bud, but it didn't bloom yet. It's not quite old enough, maybe next year. And similarly down here, we have another example of a lateral with a cluster of flowers here. And so that's the pattern of fruit bearing for deciduous trees. They only bear on older wood. You can see out here at the tip, this, with the resumption of growth this spring, this is new wood. This will grow and extend, and next year, evidence fruit, buds, flowers, and fruit. So they're different, citrus versus deciduous trees. To cut to the quick, really, don't prune your citrus, or rarely and gently, only use thinning cuts. Do prune your deciduous trees twice a year, winter and summer. And the goal of pruning is to open up the interior of the tree, i.e. the older wood that bears the fruit, to shafts of light, sunlight into the core of the tree, for it takes a high amount of sunlight striking a branch to create fruit, buds, flowers, and fruit. About 78–80% of the totality of the 100% of the light falling from the sky. And you do that by your spacing of branches and allowing alleys of light into the core of the tree.